Yo guys, welcome back to another video. This is going to be just a fun one, just a little fun one today. I want to take a look at the OP06 meta now that we have starter deck 13 and EB01 just came out over here in Asia. I'm in Japan, so this is the meta I've been playing. I've been going to locals, I've been talking to people, I've been picking people's brains. What do they think? What's the best? And combining that with obviously all the data that we've seen with who's won the tournaments, the leaders that have been topping tournaments, bigger regionals, smaller events, all kinds of things, right? And I just want to casually kind of just go over what my thoughts are and kind of like place up until now what the OP06 meta has looked like. And please bear in mind, this is all just my opinion. This is biased. This is just what I think based on what I see, what I've heard from people, and my own personal experiences. So please keep that in mind. But if you think I have any hot takes or I'm wrong or anything, let me know in the comments. I'm definitely cool with like hearing what you guys think. But yeah, let's jump into it and let's get started. Alright, so first things first, let me just go over what the tiers are. So this is tier 1, and this is going to be tier 1 and tier 1.5 I think are just, obviously going to be the best decks. You could win nationals, you could win large regionals, you can, basically win anything with these decks. These are what these two tiers are reserved for. And then tier 2 is still competitive in my mind, but you're maybe only going to win like a flagship, which is like the large locals. It's like a semi-regional that they have over here in Japan and I believe across Asia. Still competitive, but maybe not what you're going to see as like the top competitors when it comes to nationals or those larger regionals. Tier 3 I think is going to be semi-competitive, kind of like it's going to win some locals. An outlier player using one of these leaders could even make it all the way up to a regionals or something. So but mostly just kind of a semi-competitive level where it's probably not going to make it up into those larger tournaments, or it's not consistent enough to make it into those larger tournaments. This is the pool that we have. These are what I'm considering kind of like the meta leaders at the moment, or at least like the semi like meta. I'll go over some of the other ones. There are some possible spicy takes or just things that I want to point out. And then I do have a section here that's just could see future play, and these are leaders that I think are going to get boosted by EB01, but we just haven't had enough time. Obviously it came out like yesterday, so we don't know how it's going to affect it, or OP07. I think these are leaders that Purple Yellow Croc is going to get some nice impel down, and Baroque works like purple support, right? Blue Dofi is already seen 2 new cards that are going to help it a lot. There's a new Yellow Lucy card that just came out, literally revealed today, I believe, for Bello Betty and red, or and yellow, and like Revolutionary Army type. Green Kid is really strong. I think with all the Supernova support we're getting from OP07 and EB01, it's going to be good. And then Red Purple Uta, I just threw her a bone because she hasn't done that well in OP06. But I think with the right amount of support, she could maybe be good. So she could go not meta viable, but moving on, this is the not meta viable section, and these are leaders that unfortunately, whether you love them or hate them, I just don't think they're currently in a spot where they could contend for any kind of meta like top tier. Even the top 3 tiers probably not. Some of these, like if you sat me down, you could convince me to probably put them in tier 3. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if you have a leader in here that you really love. Like I love Kinemon. I actually like Red Green Luffy. Yellow Yamato is cool. Red Black Garp. There's some leaders in here that I really like, and it's nothing against them, right? But apologies if your pet deck is in here, but it's just the way it is, man. Alright, so moving on though, let us start, and I'm just gonna kind of like go down the line here and just start. These are not in any particular order right now. Starting off, we'll just start with Sakazuki. He's still a menace in OP06. Immediately tier 1. The thing here, the reason I did this is because I actually don't think there is a definable best deck in format for OP06. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I think a lot of people would agree that we've just seen such a diverse amount of leaders not only topping, but also just winning the huge large tournaments. Like when you have a bunch of Yamatos and Peronas and Reijus like winning the CSs, the big regionals that like are basically on par with the nationals sometimes with how many people they have there, over 1,000. They might as well be nationals. when you see these leaders winning with that, or winning those events, it's kind of hard not to look at it and be like, well, I thought Sakazuki and Moria were supposed to be the two best decks, but every other deck seems to be winning the tournament. So you have to keep that in mind. But I think it's great, and it is, in my opinion, a much more diverse meta than OP05. As if you're someone from the West and you're watching this now, you probably are feeling the pain of Sakazuki and like how domineering and powerful it is, right? So we're just gonna go to tier 1 for now. We'll rearrange stuff later if we need to. Gecko Moria. This is interesting because Moria really came out the gate swinging, and I think he was top dog. He was definitely best deck in format for a little bit, but again, like I said, it was kind of weird because Moria was performing the most consistently at the kind of flagship level, which is like the semi-regionals, like large locals in Japan, and he was, you know, he's topping the most events, he's winning the most events, but he's not winning any of the bigger CSs and stuff like that. And I think that's just part of One Piece, honestly, like as a card game, which makes it kind of interesting and fun. But yeah, he actually, so here's the thing. I believe when Perona came onto the scene and people cracked the code with Perona and the Navy Doflamingo kind of build that solidified its place, the one that actually won, I believe, was the Fukuoka CS. Apologies if I got the wrong one, but it was one of the big regionals in Japan. And this person, it was like a new deck that had been circulating around a little bit, and yeah, they went on to win. If you saw the other match that they had, it wasn't the finals, I don't think, but it was against a Katakuri player where the Katakuri player had 4 life left, and this dude had 5 attacks. The Perona player had 5 attacks on the board. He was like, I lose next turn if I don't go for lethal, so I'm just gonna go for it. And it was crazy. If you don't like yellow, I suggest you go watch that clip or go watch that match on the Japanese One Piece YouTube. It's very, very interesting, very crazy. One of the most hype moments we've seen, I believe, on one of those CS streams. So that was really crazy. But my main point here is Perona actually knocks Moria down a peg or two. And Perona's decent into Sakazuki, but I think Sakazuki probably still beats out Perona. So there's a triangle here where Moria was probably the best for a minute, probably a little bit more domineering over Sakazuki, although I think as the meta changed and people learned how to play against Moria, that did change a little bit as well. But since there was a lot of, like, a huge spike in Peronas, people playing Peronas like crazy after she won at the CS, right? And this knocked down the amount of Morias, and then doubled with people just learning how to play against Moria a little bit. And the people who are playing Sakazuki have more experience. This is the second set he's been out, right? I think he just kind of took the advantage over Moria. But I don't think you could put Perona up at the top per se, on the same tier 1. Yes, she won a CS, but no, she doesn't see as many tops and wins in other tournaments. So for that reason, I'm going to keep her in tier 1.5. Keep in mind, these are very small differences in the top, these 1 and 1.5. I'm talking like small percentages of like difference between how good these leaders are. Next we got Yamato, my favorite leader, the one I've been maining all throughout OP06, and the one I love seeing win 2 CSs in a row with completely different builds. Yamato, for me, I would love to put her here. Honestly, I would. She won 2 CSs in a row, but I think just because Yamato has a rough matchup into Moria and a pretty rough matchup into Perona, but has an advantage over Sakazuki, in my opinion. I think most people would agree. It's just, you know, Sakazuki is always going to be strong, but Yamato has more tools to get around Sakazuki than almost any other deck, honestly. And she's just incredibly strong on her own. So I would like to put her on tier 1. I'm extremely biased. I'm not even going to try and hide it. But here's the other thing. Most of the time at a lot of these big tournaments, there's fewer Yamato players, but a lot of them end up at the top. So what you have here is like an amazing kind of like conversion rate, like win conversion rate based on how many people are actually using them. And I think that's really something. And I think if she's not at the end of tier 1, I'm going to put her at the very top of tier 1.5. I think that's where Yamato should go. I'm a Yamato stan. I love Wano Kuni. I love Wano stuff. So that's if you think that's a hot take, let me know. But I think it's pretty justified, and it just works out nicely because I also love Yamato. Next we got Reiju. I honestly would put Reiju in tier 2, but since she won the Singapore Bandai Card Fest Nationals, I think I'm willing to put her up here. Like I said, this is like half based on like the things that we've seen and just like how powerful the leaders seem and how they've been doing, and then half based on like just the results, right? Have they won? Are they topping? Are they winning, right? So I think because of winning a nationals is huge. I think that's such a good thing right there. You got to give her 1.5. I'm gonna put her up there. And then we got Anel, which Anel is another kind of like, this is kind of tricky. I'm gonna put him in 1.5, and I'm actually gonna put him right either here or here. I might have to come back and fix this. I'll definitely be looking at this as I go and adjusting things if I need. I think Anel started out really strong in OP06, but I don't know, I think when Perona kind of rose up in power a little bit, it really messed up the kind of like the structure that had been set a little bit. And Yamato as well. Yamato is such a destructive deck where it kind of just like messes up the meta because she's so strong just as a leader, right? But Anel, I think, just dropped off just slightly. And again, I want to reiterate, like the differences that I think are between these leaders up here at the top 1 and 1.5 tiers is like minuscule, literally like percents, right? But for now I'm going to do this. I do think he's still better than Reiju. Reiju I think is the gatekeeper of 1.5 just because she's good enough to win a nationals but not consistent enough to top everywhere else. Anel is like that guy who just tops every event but never wins, you know, unless it's North America. So shout out to like, I guess the North American players and North American Anel players. You guys are doing something right. I'm recording this as the North American Nats is going on, so unfortunately I don't have the data on that, but this is OP06, so it doesn't really matter. So let's move on. This is, we got Newgate next, good old Whitebeard. And I'm going to put Whitebeard, I'm going to put him in tier 2. I think people finally saw that he's, you know, he is falling off. People in North America really didn't believe it when people were telling them that Sakazuki is just gonna destroy everything and Whitebeard's not as good. They weren't ready to believe it, because I understand that's what they've been told for OP04, and it didn't really happen in the West like it did in the East. But he's just not as viable anymore, right? Like I said, these top 3 tiers are competitive, so I still think like there was a Whitebeard player who got to the finals of the, I believe it was Tokyo CS, the first one for OP06. A month or 2 ago, fight against Yamato in the finals, and Yamato won. That was a crazy game. It was really awesome. So yes, a really strong outlier person can take Whitebeard and take it all the way to the finals, but in general he's not really topping in the bigger events, right? Winning a lot of like locals or, you know, like flagship events here and there, maybe. I don't even know if he's won any flagships for OP06, but still really strong, still a contender, and the outlier person. He's topped, I think, consistently enough at the smaller level that I'm willing to put him at tier 2. That's what I'll say. Then we got Red Purple Law. I'm gonna put Red Purple Law at tier 2. I'm actually gonna put him above Whitebeard just because he has a pretty decent matchup into Sakazuki, but he gets destroyed by Reiju. Or sorry, he destroys Reiju. I'm sorry if I said that the other way around. He destroys Reiju, right? But has a tough matchup into a lot of these other top tier decks. He just doesn't have, like, if Reiju had not won the Singapore Bandai Card Fest, I'd probably do something like this, honestly. But I think she's consistent enough, and there aren't as many Red Purple Law players around, just because, yeah, Red Purple Law has a hard time against a lot of these other decks like Sakazuki. People say Red Purple Law is good into Sakazuki, but I think Sakazuki is also pretty good into Red Purple Law. Yamato doesn't get affected as much because they're not playing as many like little bodies and are just going to be resting and swinging for life. Perona doesn't have too hard of a time, I believe. I haven't seen too many matchups between Perona and Red Purple Law, but just in general, right? It's not strong enough to really beat out the top tier decks. So he's going to be the top of tier 2 though, because a really good Red Purple Law player can go far with him and I think they could even win like a large tournament. But moving on to Katakuri. So in Katakuri, this is a complicated deck for me because it has always been not really one of my favorite leaders, just because I don't really like 10 cost Big Mom. Like, I'm okay with triggers. I understand yellow for what it is. I played NL a lot in OP05. Yellow green Yamato is my main in OP06, so I get it. I know how fun triggers are, but triggers don't hurt me as bad as 10 cost Big Mom hurt me. So I don't always have the I haven't always favored Katakuri that well, but it's undeniably powerful. And here's the thing, like I was saying, it's like general results and like how we feel about the leader, and then also just results, right? So if this had been before the recent second preliminary regionals that took place in Japan to decide who goes to the Japan Nationals on February 10th, I would have probably had it like this, maybe. I don't even know if Katakuri would be in tier 1, maybe like here, honestly. And just in general, I think this is probably it right here. But yellow is really, really good, and Katakuri just won the second that regional, the second round preliminaries, and it was the same guy who won a recent CS and that went undefeated, like 13-0, I believe, 12-0 or 13-0. His name's Pascal. That's his like name that he uses, and he's a crazy player. He's just really, really good. And then on top of that, you just have yellow doing yellow things. So for this tier list, and hopefully this isn't too spicy of a take, I'm actually going to put Katakuri at the top of the top right here. And I'll reiterate here for a third time, just in case you guys weren't paying attention. The differences that I actually think are here between these top like 7 leaders are minuscule, like literally percentages, and change. This would change a couple weeks from now. My opinion would probably change, right? But just right now, where we are, and just seeing like, you know, just in general, any one of these leaders could win against any one of these other leaders and could win the events, as we've already seen in the OP06 season. But just want to keep reiterating that. But yeah, I think, because those are our 2 main criteria, is like general feeling of how it's doing and then the actual hard results. So if I'm sticking to my guns there, I'm actually going to put Katakuri at the top. And let me know if you think that's a spicy take, but I think he's undeniably at least in tier 1.5. So yeah, we'll see what you guys think about that one for sure. And I know that the CS tournaments and stuff in Japan are not the only tournaments that are happening in Asia, but it is a really good way to look and see like what's doing well, and it's always a large pool of players, so it's always it's a really good source of information and data, and there's a lot of really strong players in Japan. So, and that's where I live, so that's what I'm basing most of this off of, honestly. Next we got Red Green Law. A really good leader. He's just really good. He's just a really good leader, and I'm actually gonna put him. This is hard. This is actually hard in this current meta. I think Red Green Law still kind of gets bodied by like Sakazuki and Moria, so I would want to put him above Whitebeard, but I think I'm actually just gonna keep him here. Red Green Law is just one of those leaders, kind of like Yamato, where like if Yamato gets like out metaed in the next set or two, she's always going to be able to come back with the right build or the right support, right? Because the leader itself is just so strong, kind of like Mono Green Kid, right? But the thing here is like, you know, it's just the support that he does have is just not working into the meta, so I'm keeping him at tier 2. Red Purple Luffy, this is going to go in tier 3 for me. For whatever reason, I feel like he's still just a really strong leader. 6k leaders are really strong. But as you can even see already in the West, like the OP05 meta, it's kind of clear that he's up there, right? He was always up there, but he's just not really at the top of the top. And next we got Ace. We got my boy. This is one of my top 3 favorite leaders, and this is a lot of bias. I'm gonna say this one's a lot of bias. I'm not gonna lie, but Ace still in OP06 I think has a decent matchup into Sakazuki, and decent enough matchups into all these other top leaders, but maybe not with the consistency that he needs. And any kind of like, I don't know, Anel is pretty difficult for Ace, that's for sure. I mean, all of these leaders can be difficult, right? But I love Ace. I think he's a little bit one of those wild cards. I'm just gonna keep him here in tier 3 because keep in mind these top 3 are competitive competitive and like highly competitive, and then tier 3 is like this is gonna win some locals, and the 1 in 10,000 outlier might take it all the way to like a regional or nationals, right? But yeah, just keep that in mind for that. Next, we got Purple Luffy. I wanted to actually put him just in not meta viable, but I think he's just strong enough, and like the purple cards are really strong, and 5-cost blockers are OP in OP06. So yeah, in a different world, Purple Luffy would just be better, right? But like Sakazuki existing, even Moria is pretty hard, you know. Yamato as well. If Yamato gets through Luffy's life before he has time to set up his 5-cost blockers and spam blockers, it's just over. If you do set up enough defense against Yamato, then the game shifts. But like being in such a volatile matchup, like ring like that, just makes it kind of impossible. Which is why I'm just keeping him as like semi-competitive. Rebecca, I always think that Rebecca is stronger than people give her credit for. Like the deck is stronger, and just seeing how people played it in OP04 in Asia, just like really like Rebecca was like killing Whitebeard when Whitebeard was basically at his strongest, and Rebecca was like handling him with not a lot of problems, right? She does have a hard time into yellow, and for that reason, like Enel, Yamato, and Katakuri are going to be pretty difficult for Rebecca in most cases, so that's why I can't really put her in tier 2, but I do think she's towards the top of the semi-competitive level. Oh, and then we got Nami. So this is another one of I'd say my top 3 favorite decks are probably Yellow Green Yamato, Ace, and then Nami, just because I played a lot of Nami and Ace in OP03 and OP04, and Nami is just one of those decks that it's just like, it's the meta disruptor, right? It's not a meta killer, it's not a meta setter, it's the meta disruptor. You saw how well she did in the European Nats with the top, like, I believe 32, and then top 8 placing by Ubate, and then Rampton, I believe, is the top 8 player. And I believe a Nami player in Japan here just won a big flagship, like a big flagship that was, it kind of made news around the Japanese like One Piece circle, where it's like, she's back. So yeah, people are finding new ways. The white smoke event is actually pretty decent because it makes your leader a 6k for the whole turn. So if you have a bunch of attacks coming, it's like after the first one you're attacking into a 6k leader, right? So there are little things. This one always takes time. Once the meta settles down, then Nami just comes in and starts like sweeping games. It's crazy. It's really crazy. But I love that there's a leader like this in One Piece, because if we just had 800 Sakazukis at every single tournament and we knew that Sakazuki was going to win, it'd be pretty boring, right? So having disruptors like Nami and some of these other decks I think are really, really important, and what I like about One Piece, honestly, as a TCG. Green Uta, I think it's weird. She just has so much combo power and so much draw power that it's like, you think she would be higher, but I think she really just gets destroyed by Sakazuki and even Moria at times. But she beats a lot of other decks. Like, she's more favored into a Yamato match, I'd say, because you have enough counter, you have enough defense, you're playing blockers. She has a lot of good matchups, but just at the top tier, she kind of loses out. So kind of like Rebecca, I can't. I have to keep her in tier 3. Then we got Zoro. So if this were OP05, right, you'd probably put him a little bit higher, maybe even tier 1.5, just because of how good his matchup into Sakazuki is. But I think just because Sakazuki is not the only top dog here, and Zoro does struggle into like Moria, Sakazuki, or not Sakazuki, sorry. I think Zoro does struggle into Moria a bit. Has a hard time into Nell, obviously, probably the hardest time into a Nell. I think Perona can handle Zoro because she can just rest most of his little weenies. So I'm going to put him at the top of tier 3 here. I'm going to put him at the top of tier 3. Just because if there was any leader that would get up, like go up into tier 2 and above, it would be Zoro. But I think Nami is the gatekeeper of the like the bottom of like what is competitive. You could even put Nami here, but I actually like putting her here, and that might be just biased too, but oh well. All right, last 3 leaders. We got the starter deck, the 3 brothers. If you're in the West right now, you may not be as familiar with these, so I'll try and explain why I'm putting everyone there. And honestly, we haven't had as much time with these leaders either, but we've had a little bit of time, and we've seen how they've kind of gone up and down. So we'll start with Black Yellow Luffy. Black Yellow Luffy, man, I would when he first came on the scene, I would put him tier 1.5. I would actually, but and I'm at fault for thinking this. I kind of valued Black Yellow Luffy a little too high. The combo power with the Kid Luffy and Sabo Ace, and then getting your leader to 7 or 9k, even sometimes, even on your opponent until the start of your next turn. The combo power is ridiculous, but Luffy wanting to get to 0 life in order to use his effect kind of makes him. It's not a one-trick pony, but you know his objective. You understand exactly what he's trying to do, and there are some easy ways to kind of get around that, like Yamato, like if you getting some double attack banishes off, or Yanel just going wide, or like Moria setting up a big board. It's still really strong, but I think I'm gonna put him in tier 2. Actually, I'm gonna put him above Red Purple Law. I forgot that. Yeah, I'd probably put him here. So Red Yellow Sabo started out real low, but has actually gone up quite a bit. He even was in one of the top teams that was at this weekend. There was a 3-on-3, like a university 3-on-3 tournament in Japan, and he was on one of the teams, and he actually the Whitebeard variant, like Whitebeard, Yellow Wano, and like the just like Yellow Trigger with Revolutionary Army variants have been doing pretty good. I'm actually gonna put him. This is tough. I think I'm gonna put him behind Red Purple Law though, but he has been spiking up. I would have put him at tier 3 honestly at the beginning, but while Luffy has gone down, Sabo has gone up, and Ace has stayed in this weird territory where I'm gonna put him at the very bottom of tier 2. And this might be throwing him a bone, because he won some tournaments whenever he first came out. Yeah, actually, I'm tempted to put these into tier 3. So they are pretty good though. They are pretty good. They could go pretty far. This is hard. This is actually really hard. Ace struggles because he doesn't have really like the cards. Like EBO1's giving him some support with like Charlotte Flampe and possibly Viola, and then OP07 hopefully will as well. And I think OP08 is confirmed, like blue Whitebeard, so like blue Whitebeard pirate cards. So we'll see. I think I'm gonna do this. This might be kind of spicy here. But I'm gonna do this. I think this is actually correct. I think this is correct. I'm gonna keep him here because Black Yellow Luffy is still topping, but really Ace and Sabo aren't topping as much. I would put it like that right there. I think that's decent. I think that would be fair. Again, these ones are the ones I'm most unsure about, so I apologize if like there's some obvious data out there that I'm forgetting, or if this is just an L take, but I don't think it is. I think it's pretty fair. I think it's pretty close to what the data shows, and what most of a lot of people would probably agree. All right, so this is it. This is what I would consider for today, for this moment in time, this is what I would consider my OP06 tier list. This is essentially the OP06 kind of 6 through 6.5 really meta, right? We're starting now from this weekend, like the OP06 6.75 meta, so really this is like 6 to 6.5. But yeah, this is it. I'm not including the EBO1 leaders because they literally came out yesterday, and I'm not going to speculate on that for this tier list. This is kind of like what we've seen so far this season for OP06. But yeah, let me know what you think. And hopefully I didn't hurt anyone's pet deck too badly, because I know how that can feel. Alright guys, this is it. This is what I consider to be essentially the meta for what we've seen in OP06 from 6 until 6.5, now beginning from 6.75 with the release of EBO1. Let me know if you like it, let me know if you don't like it. Keep it classy in the comments, please. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, and again, this was casual. This was all my own opinion. This was just for fun. Okay? But I do think I was able to look at it, with the lens of the data and then what people are saying, and yeah, just always fun to make a tier list, right? It wouldn't be a tier list if it wasn't a little spicy, so what can I say? But I will probably be making one for the OP07 leaders. I'm gonna make a breakdown video, just like a first look, looking at them. I'll probably make like a speculative tier list for that too, because OP07 is coming out like in less than a month, I think, which is kind of crazy. So I'm really excited to see how the end of OP06 goes and how the start of OP7 goes. But for now, just thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.